Hello and welcome to Improving Health Communication, Part 4 of the Bell Library's Health Literacy Workshop. When we talk about health communication, what are we including? It is certainly both verbal and nonverbal, but also within that are things like handouts, websites, media, or any other materials you provide to your patients and clients. Let's start with the basics. Verbal communication includes the words you use, of course. Are you using everyday language or specialty terminology? Your tone. That's the attitude your voice is conveying. Are you friendly, condescending, supportive, matter of fact? Speed. How quickly do you talk? Enunciation, which can be related to speed, but this is about how clearly you are pronouncing the words you're using. In written communication and handouts, it can be using white space effectively, or how you organize the information on a page. All of these together tell quite a bit about you and your relationship with your client or patient, and they're all especially important if you have a client for whom English is not his or her first language. Now let's talk about nonverbal communication. These are things like eye contact, your facial expression, gestures you may use, how close you sit to a person, whether and how you use touch. In written communication and handouts, it's also using images, or even making sure the photocopier is working properly. These tend to be a bit subtler than the verbal cues, but are still crucial to the relationship you're building with your client or patient, and can have enormous cultural implications because nonverbal communication norms can vary quite a bit from culture to culture. Now it's your turn. Take a moment and think of the last time you had a good interaction with someone in a store or office. What were some of the verbal and nonverbal behaviors that person used? Now, think of a time where the interaction was not so wonderful. What were the differences? I imagine some of them fell into the categories I just named. So, why is all of this so important? How we communicate is crucial to building rapport, but also influences whether or not the people we work with even remember the information we're trying to convey. The fact of the matter is, according to the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, patients forget 40 to 80% of the medical information they receive immediately after leaving a typical office visit. What's worse, nearly half of the information they do retain is incorrect. So, worst case scenario, they forget 80% and misremember another 10%. So what do? There are a couple of techniques that are very helpful for improving health communication. The first is plain language, and it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's using clear communication the general public can understand. And believe it or not, it is a set of guidelines the United States federal government developed in order to improve communication from the government to us, the citizenry. And it's actually legislated. But back to what it actually is. Plain language is using everyday language at the 5th to 6th grade level, and including explanations of any necessary technical terms that fall outside that reading level. It's explaining why the information you're providing is important, as well as avoiding extra information, focusing on what they need to know right now and for the immediate future. And finally, it's making it engaging. If you're interested in learning more, the U.S. government's website, plainlanguage.gov, is packed with information as well as resources and examples. A second popular health communication technique is called teach-back. There's quite a bit of evidence to show its effectiveness, and like plain language, the idea is in the name. The basic idea is that the clinician asks a patient to explain what they've learned in their own words. In other words, the clinician asks the client to teach back the ideas. It's important that the patient or client know they aren't being tested, but instead it's an opportunity for the clinician to see whether she explained the ideas clearly and provides an opportunity for clarification or correction. It sometimes goes by an alternative name, show me, especially for teaching techniques or skills. There's a video that accompanies this lesson that gives a more detailed but still brief introduction to teach-back. It's important to know that teach-back takes practice. It's not something to jump into without preparation, and here are some things to consider as you're preparing. You'll want to plan your approach. Think about everything from the content to your tone of voice and delivery. Be sure to chunk and check, meaning break the content into chunks and then prompt the teach-back moments after each chunk. If you see anything that needs correction, be ready to revise your explanation and check again. Printed handouts can be a great addition to teach-back because they help your client or patient remember key ideas during the teach-back, but also when they get home and are on their own. And finally, it just takes practice. Always Use Teachback is a great site for learning more. It has additional videos and a whole toolkit to help you get started using the technique. Well, that concludes this fourth part of our health literacy series. I hope you find these ideas helpful as you take on the challenges of health communication in your own professional role.